Hi everyone, I'm Oliver Villar from Blenders.com, and in this video tutorial I'll show you how to use Blender's movie clip editor tools to stabilize the camera motion in videos. Basically, I'll go through two different exercises covering some tricks on tracking features on the videos and how to set up the stabilization. Then we'll go to the compositor to put the stabilization to work in the final output. This tutorial is a good companion of the camera tracking one I published a while ago. In the camera tracking tutorial, you'll see more in-depth information about how to track features in the video and the specific tools and commands of the movie clip editor. First things first, we need to jump into the movie clip editor, which is the editor that we are going to use to stabilize the footage. Now let's open a movie clip, and we can click here and open. Alright, we can go here to clip and open clip, press Alt-O or just drag it from the operative system folder like this, drop it there, and here we have this movie clip. Now I'm going to work in full screen, but before I'm going here to the timeline, go into the frame 160, which is where I want this video to end, and press E, alright, with the mouse cursor over the timeline. This will make this frame the last frame of the animation. Now press Shift space to jump into full screen, and press Alt-A to preview the video. So as you can see, it is a video recorded with a handheld camera. So we have some, trembling in the hands, we have some rotation, so we are going to stabilize just that. So what we need to do is to track some features in this image. Alright, so Blender has information on how points are moving in the video. If you want more information on this, I really recommend you to check out my video about camera tracking, because the process is the same, and in that video I go very in depth in the specifics of how to track features. Alright, here I'm going to just explain the basics. So let's add a marker first. One of the ways in which you can add a marker is by pressing Add here, okay? And now, as the instruction says down here, we can use the left click to add a marker. Zoom in, and we are going to track this corner here. Okay, we can scale it up if we want. Right, just grab it with G, scale it with S, and we can rotate it, but we are not going to use that. Keep in mind that the image that Blender will look for in the next frames to track this point of the image automatically during the video is the pattern inside this area. Okay, so that's why you can rotate it and stuff, alright, because the image that you see here is the one that Blender will look for in the next frame. Now let's go down here, and in marker display let's enable search. This will let us see the search area, which means that this is the area in which Blender will look for this pattern inside the pattern area in the next frame. Okay, so if the pattern is outside of this area, of the search area in the next frame, Blender won't find it. But now keep in mind, however, that if you make the search area very big, Blender will take more time to track the feature, right? Because it has more space to analyze. Okay, now there is something interesting here that I want to make sure you understand, and is that we have tracking settings both in the left and in the right of the screen. What does this mean? They are not the same. Okay, the ones here in the left are the parameters that we are going to embed in any marker that we create new. Okay, so if we create a new marker, it will have these parameters on it. While the ones in the right side are the parameters from the specific marker that we have selected. Okay, so if you want to change specific parameters of a marker, just select it and go here to the right settings. The ones here only affect to the newly created markers. Okay, in the next exercise, alright, for now I just picked this very easy exercise to show you how stabilizing works, but in the next exercise I will take a slightly more complex video and we are going to use these features. So let's see how we can track this. We can track it manually, or we can track it automatically. As you can see, now we have this set up, so we can just click here and Blender will try to find that feature in the next frames. Alright, with this button here, we automatically track the feature frame by frame. while with this one, we track it during the whole video. There we go. So now we can just, as you can see, scrub through the whole video, and we have that marker correctly tracked. So this is okay. Let's go up here and press this lock button to make sure that we don't accidentally change that tracker, that marker. Okay, now the next one will be this little point here, and this one will be easy. And for you to understand how this works, you can track forward and backward. So let's go to the end of the video and we will track from here. So let's press Control left click, and this is the other way of creating markers. All right, so we have it there. There we go. This is the pattern that Blender will try to follow. And okay, let me think. There are a couple of things that I want to do here. One of them is to show you how to lock the camera to this marker so it's easy to follow its behavior during while it's tracking the video. And the other one is reducing the tracking speed. Let's go here to the tracking settings, and here inside the extra settings we have the speed. The fastest will use your computer to the fastest speed it can track the feature during the video, which is usually what you want. Other times, however, you want to change this to real time, for example, so you can see the video in real time, right? Like if it was just playing, while you see how the feature is being tracked during the video, which is very useful because you can very easily see some wrong behavior in the tracking while it's tracking, all right? And it's especially useful for difficult features, all right? This one here, for example, is a pretty easy feature to track, but there are some other features that may be more difficult or may change during the video or whatever, so you have to supervise the tracking, and this option is very useful for that. Now we are in the end of the video and we can track backwards. Now there is another thing that I want to show you, okay? And is that, as you can see, now the marker is moving, and you saw in the previous one that while it was tracking, it got out of the camera, so we couldn't see what was going on with the tracking. So what I'm going to do now is to just press L, and you can see how this marker becomes the center, the point of attention of the camera. So now, if we press track backwards, we can see the video playing in real time, and Blender will move the video to compensate for the movement of this point, and we will always see this marker in the middle of the viewport, which is exactly what we needed, right? So we can supervise that the tracking is correct. So, as you can see, everything is correct, and this is basically what will happen then with the stabilization, right? Blender just fixes a point in the space in 2D and moves the video around to compensate for that movement. So as you can see, now the video is stabilized on that point. So let's see how to do that. But first, let's lock this one. And now we have two markers. We could have more, but I don't recommend you to have a lot of markers used in the 2D stabilization, because what will happen is the Blender kind of will make an average of several points, and when you make an average, you probably get a different point or whatever, and overall what you shouldn't use is markers in different distances from the camera. For example, if we add a marker here and press Ctrl T to track it, you can see that this tree here is in the very background of the video, which is nice to have a marker there if you want to do the camera tracking, but for the stabilization it's not good, because the stabilization happens in 2D, not in 3D. So as it happens in 2D, what will happen when you add a point from a distance of the camera different than these other ones, Blender will make an average and won't do the stabilizing good, because this point, the change in perspective from this point to this point is different, so Blender will be confused. So if you add more markers, try them to be the same distance from the camera. So for example, any marker through this wall would be alright, but ones here in closer areas or in farther away areas are not recommended. That is called perspective shift, by the way. If you want more information on perspective shift, I also recommend you to check out the camera tracking tutorial. Okay, let's see how to use this to stabilize the camera. So let's go down here, just close the tracking settings for now, we don't need them. And we are going here, open this, and enable 2D stabilization. Let's select this track, press plus, and if we press play, nothing happens. But we have to go up here to display and enable display stabilization. Now close this, and if we want to enable or disable it at any time, we can just click this, all right? Click enable or disable the 2D stabilization. Also, something that I wanted to recommend is that if you are going to add new markers and track them, I recommend you to use the 2D stabilization disabled, all right? Because if you add a marker here, if you enable 2D stabilization, its position will change, and where you're going to scale it, you can see that the central part of the scaling transform is dependent on the normal position of the marker, not the stabilized position. So just keep that in mind. If you just want to preview the stuff, you can enable it. Okay, but just you have to know also that this won't affect the final result that you render. Okay, in order to affect the stabilization of the video, we have to go later to the compositing, which I will show you in a moment. Okay, so as we have this, if we press Alt A, we have the location stabilized. So you can see now that Blender takes this point, fixes it in space, and instead moves the video around to compensate for that movement. So you can see the borders of the video go out of the way and leave some transparent areas sometimes, which is not good, but we are going how to solve it. We're going to see how to solve it in a moment. Now we can also fix the rotation. You can see that even the location is fixed, the rotation is still quite noticeable in some points of the video. So let's go down, enable stabilize rotation, and select this other marker and press plus. So now you can see the rotation is completely fixed. Okay, you can see this is horizontal, and Blender moves and rotates the video around to compensate for that movement. Now you could take this point and add it also to the stabilization location. All right, so instead of this point to be fixed in space, Blender will fix this point here, which would be an average of the 2 points. And as these points are at the same distance from the camera, it is still good, okay? And also it feels kind of more natural to have not a very noticeable point to be fixed in space. Now, how do we fix this borders of the video coming into the view? We just go here and enable auto scale. So Blender will automatically scale the video so that at any frame we can see the borders. All right, so you can see Blender is moving it around to make this stabilized. The counterpart of this, the counter side of this, the opposite, the bad part of this, didn't know how to say that. The bad part of this method is that we are losing a lot of information in the video. So if you're going to stabilize it, it is highly recommended that you film the video at a bigger size than needed for the final output. Okay, so you can allow yourself to lose some resolution on the video, some information, because the part that is going to be outputted finally is smaller than the full video. Okay. Also, now there are a couple of things that you can control here, like the location influence. Okay. Because sometimes if you put it at 100%, what happens is that the motion looks no natural, all right, because it's completely fixed, and sometimes you don't want that. So just decrease it. So even though the video is stabilized, it still has some kind of handheld effect, which makes it more natural, all right. So just keep that in mind. You can change this. Also, you can change here the maximum scale that you allow Blender to scale the video in order to avoid the borders to be seen. The scale influence as well. You can see that if you decrease it, the video gets smaller. And you can also control the amount of influence in the rotation stabilization. Basically, you can control everything. Also here in the filter, you can control the the stabilization, how it is calculated. So the bicubic usually is a little slower, as you can see, but it probably has the best effect. So far, all the tests and works I've made with these stabilization methods, I didn't feel a really big difference between using one or other methods. All right, so just select the one that you feel better. Probably in very complex scenes, this may have some effect, but not in these simple ones. Okay, another thing that you can do, and it's important to note this, is that you can animate these values. Okay, for example, you can animate the location influence. Just place your mouse cursor on top of the parameter, press I, and you will see that it becomes yellow. This means that this parameter in this frame has a keyframe. Let's move around, decrease it, and add another keyframe to it. So with this, you can control how specific parts of the video behave with this stabilization. Right? You can see that this parameter now, as we scrub through the video, is being animated. You can do that with the scale as well. For example, if there is a part on the video that we are losing a lot of information out of the video and it's unnecessary, all right, because for example we only need all this amount of scale in order to avoid this moment. Okay, so at this moment we can probably put the scale influence to 1, okay, because it's what we need. For example, at this point in which we still have enough space around, we can decrease the scale influence, press I, and there we go. So as you can see, we can play with that. So at this point it will kind of make like a zoom in to avoid the borders from being seen. So as you can see, there is a lot of things to play with. Okay, later I'm going to show you how to add this into the compositing. For now, I'm going to show you now a different exercise, which is kind of not more complex, but you will learn a few tricks. Alright, I just loaded a new video, which is a keyboard, and you can see how the camera rotates around the keyboard. So we are going to stabilize that because again, this was recorded with a handheld camera, and we are going to stabilize it. Something we can do is to click here on Prefetch, which will basically load the whole video, and we can also set scene frames, which will make the scene to fit the length of the video. All right, let's click on Prefetch again, so it loads the last keyframes, sorry. Okay, so we are done there. You can see the video. Let's press play. You can see that the camera is moving a lot, and we are going to stabilize it. Now, this scene could seem a little tricky because there are not a lot of patterns that we can follow. Like everything is changing in perspective through the scene. There are no specific points, like there is no a white point. Okay, you can of course appreciate the accumulation of dust between the buttons of the keys of my keyboard, which is nice, I guess. All right, by the way, if you wanted to achieve this effect in a 3D render, you could probably use an ambient occlusion pass, okay, and use it as a mask inverted to create the dust there. Okay, just an idea. Just take it as a free tip. Oh, I can't talk today. Okay. All right. So how would I track some features here? Okay. For example, this is very blurred. It's kind of tricky. Let's try with a normal tracker and see what happens. So let's track, for example, this letter. Okay. Let's see what happens. Press Control T, and it lost it. Okay, as you can see, it lost it. Just 14 frames, and we still have like a lot of frames to go. So what I will do is to just clear that track. So from the current frame, just clear it forward, and it has been cleared. Okay, what should I do now? I can scale it to fit the whole letter. And what I'm gonna do is to go here to the tracking settings, and instead of matching the keyframe, I'm going to tell Blender to match the previous frame. What this means is that when Blender tries to match the keyframe, it will try to match the image, the pattern in the image, with the one that we had when we moved this this pattern. Okay, so right now there is a keyframe here, a manual keyframe, and if we go and press Ctrl T, Blender will look for this. Wow, wait for it. I want it to be on keyframe. So let's go here to the first frame. Okay, we can go here, add a new keyframe, and if we press Ctrl T, you can see that it loses it after a few frames. The reason is that the perspective is changing, and so the pattern can't match. All right. Here in the extra settings, you have the correlation, which is 0.75, which means that if the pattern is 75% similar to the one in the last keyframe, the last manual keyframe, Blender will find it. Otherwise, it will discard it. Okay, this is something to limit how similar the pattern can be from a frame from a keyframe to the next one. Now, as in this case, we are changing the perspective through the video, the pattern is changing constantly. All right, so at some point the correlation will break and Blender won't find it. But if we select the previous frame, what Blender will do is to, from frame to frame, it will match this correlation, all right, but only from the previous frame. So as the feature is changing over time in perspective, Blender will be adapting to it at each frame. So if we press play here and press L to load the camera to that point in the video, you can see that even though the marker moved a little bit through the letter, it's still quite stable, so we can use it. Let's press lock. But now we're going to use something different, all right, which some of you may not know, all right, others may do, but never mind, I will show it to you. So here we can select a few things that the marker can track. Like by default is the location only, but now we're going to, we can track the location and rotation, the scale also of the pattern, or we can track the perspective. And instead of keyframe, we're going to add the previous frame, right? Because the perspective will be changing, so we need to do that. Now let's go here, press Ctrl left click to add a new marker, and let's move these corners. Let's zoom in, and let's try this Windows symbol. I'm not advertising Windows, by the way. Or maybe yes, who knows. All right, we need to keep in mind that if the search area is very little, in the next frame we may lose this feature. So make it just slightly bigger than the pattern area. So if now we press this one to track this feature and press L to load this to the camera, let's see what happens. Isn't it amazing? I love it. But let's try with something slightly more complex. All right, so you can see the possibilities you have with this. Let's go right here, for example, add a new one here, and let's do something a little crazy, like let's go here. Right, this is a very blurred thing, but let's do this. Okay, and let's, for example, okay, what happens here? Okay, we can't surpass the center of the feature, so all right. So we're going to take this, okay? Now keep in mind that the shape of the perspective may change, but what is very important is that the central point of this marker is correct, right? So as long as the center of this marker is correct, we don't care a lot about the shape of this perspective. lines. So let's just track them. Let's press L. You can see it's a little slower, right? Because we are searching a big area, and also the pattern is slightly blurred. You can see here that Blender is looking for this pattern, right? Blender uses these lines for distorting the image in order to search for that pattern. So as you can see, while the lines doesn't keep the perspective correctly, the central point is kind of stable, so we can use it, lock it. And as you can see, we can use it in other, practical ways. For example, we can use one here. We can use one here. This is very cool stuff. And we can go even farther, like, take some things, even they are not squared, they can be used like this. So let's select those three and let's track them. Control T, L, and it worked perfectly. Let's lock them, and there we go. So as you can see, Blender is really powerful with this. We could use this to track the camera, but at this point we already have enough markers to stabilize the motion. So let's go and do it. Let's go here, enable the 2D stabilization. Let's select, for example, first, I don't know, this one. Add it here, and let's go here, display stabilization. So as you can see, pretty nice. What happens is that, look at this, all right? As we are taking a point which is kind of near a corner of the video, at the end of the video is really in the corner, so the video is moving a lot in order to compensate for that movement, which means that we have a lot of free space here. So if we enable the auto scale, you can see it's not enough and it's not, it's really big. So what we are going to do is to add more points. Add another one, add probably this one. Okay, and see what happens. Okay, it's better. And here at the end, we are not having free space in the video, but this is still a lot because all of the points are in the same part of the video. But let's add this one. Suddenly, the video has been used, more resolution. We are not losing so many space. So as you can see, having just a few points, but enough separated in the video, you will take more parts of the video. And as you can see, the video is being stabilized quite a lot. If we disable the 2D stabilization, you can see how it moves much more. With it enabled, it's pretty stable. Of course, in this one, there is no point in using the rotation. We can try it, and you will see how weird things happen. You can see the Blender is trying to rotate the whole video in order to keep the rotation going. But, because in this video, the camera is rotating around the object. So trying to stabilize the rotation is, crazy. But you can, of course, just reduce it very little. So it tries to just compensate it a little bit. So as you can see, a lot of options you have here, and that's it. Now let's go to the compositing and see how to use this in the final output. Let's go to the node editor, open the compositing, use nodes, and enable the backdrop so we can see what's going on. Let's just select these render layers and delete it. Okay, we're not going to render anything from the 3D scene. we just want movie clips. So let's click on Shift A, press on Input, select the movie clip, and as we have them already loaded into Blender, we can just go here and open them. There we go. That is the keyboard. Okay, we can actually change the name to keyboard. There you have it. And we can duplicate it with Shift D. So we have here the other one. The, I don't know, ruins. Okay, so we have these two videos. Let's see how to use the stabilization from them. Let's press on Control Shift left click so we can see the whole video. Press V in the keyboard to zoom out. And you can see how we see the full scene now. Okay, let's use the stabilization. Let's go to Shift A, select a new node, create a distort node, and here we have Stabilize 2D. Surprise. So just drop it there, and from the list of movie clips, we can just go and select one of those. Of course, this is the keyboard video, so just select the keyboard stabilization, and you can see how the video is now being affected by this, which is exactly what we wanted. If we duplicate it, we can go here and select this viewer. Alright, so here you can see how this image gets rotated because it is right now being affected by the stabilized motion of the keyboard video instead of the ruins one. So let's go here and select the ruins, and now we have the stabilization here. So if we scrub through the video, okay, with Alt and scroll, let me check, you can see how it is stabilized. There we go. While if you watch the real one with Control Shift left click on it, it will automatically connect it to the viewer. You can see that this one is not being stabilized at all. So just go here, connect it to the output, and that's it. Okay, we have it stabilized. Now if we press render, which would be, let's press Shift space, and if we go here to the render options, just press render to render this only frame, or just press animation to render the full range of the animation. But you have to keep in mind that you should tell Blender here where to save all this animation. So just click here, select the part of your hard drive where you want to save all these files, and when you click render the animation, Blender will just do it. So I hope you liked this video. Stabilizing is very useful. Now you have to keep in mind that when you use it here in the compositing, I always recommend to add any other effect before the stabilize. Alright, just add the stabilization at the end of the video. The reason for this is that if you are adding 3D stuff to your scene with camera tracking and all this stuff, it is better to add it without the stabilization, alright, so it fits the real video, so the motion blur and everything is exactly the same as in the real video, and then after you have everything composed, just add at the end of the full node tree the stabilize 2D node, so it stabilizes the video and the 3D stuff together. Alright, this is you can do it other ways, but I always recommend that. Okay. Okay, so this is everything for this tutorial. I hope you liked it. And again, if you want to know more about how to track features and camera tracking and things like that, I recommend you to check out my camera tracking tutorial, which has very in-depth information about these subjects. See you in the next tutorial, and happy blending!